Okay, I'm here at CIOday, and I'm talking to William Binney, and he used to work for the NSA, and he gave a very fantastic presentation for the CIOs, about 1,000 people, and it was good that you talked about that subject today. First, your background on the NSA. When did you work there?
Well, I first started in the military from 1965 to 1969. Then from 1970 on to 2001, I was a civilian working for NSA. Yeah. So it's about 36 years total.
Yeah, 36. So you have a long experience. When did you discover this mass surveillance, which basically bothered you?
First, it came to my knowledge in the second week of October of 2001. And when I saw that, I immediately knew I couldn't stay there because it was a direct violation of our Constitution. You know, they were violating the First, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and any number of other laws in the United States, the Pen Register Law, the Electronic Privacy Act, Electronic Security Act, all the laws governing FCC regulations, governing the telecom companies. And so I knew this had to be done internally at the highest level. So there was no point talking to anybody in NSA, so I went from there. I went directly to...
You didn't even try inside the NSA to...
I knew the people. I knew all these people. So, I knew that they wouldn't do this alone, so I knew they had cover from the White House.
From Dick Cheney?
Yeah, from Dick Cheney. Yeah. And
so do you think this was a direct effect of 9/11?
No, I think they were planning it even before that. Because I know Joe Naccio, who was the former CEO of Quest, the telecommunications company in the U.S., he was approached in February the 27th of 2001, about 7 months before 9/11, and he was asked to turn over all the data on his customers at that time. So, that shows intent even before 9/11.
Okay, so 911 was a fantastic opportunity to do whatever they thought was necessary to do.
Well, I mean, it gave them the leverage, because at that, that was the big lever, the hammer. They could say, if we don't do this, you're going to be another 9/11. Which is absolutely false,
Well, let's talk about that later. First, you described a little bit how the PRISM system works. Can you repeat that? I mean, where do they pull in? Where do they get the data, and what do they do with it?
Well, there's several ways they get it. One, they go directly to the companies and ask for it, and they do that with some regularity, but it's still a minor part of the data they get.
Yeah, but you had an incredible list of companies, including Microsoft, Cisco, all the big guys who are here. They were working with the NSA to provide data.
Well, actually, they provide more the weaknesses to the systems to allow them to get into them. Now, what that means then is NSA has all these tap points in the network. They can go anywhere in the network and get anything they want. So they use that access to penetrate into the devices.
So it's not necessary that the companies turn over the data. They basically work with people inside the companies so that they can with the weak system. And when they have a physical link, they tap everything and they basically can get the data.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. And you also had a lot of countries. I mean, the Netherlands was one of them. We were proudly there on a list of countries participating. On what level are we participating?
Well, you see, I don't know exactly. That depends. That's basically worked out individually by agreements between the countries. As to what they share, how much they participate, how far they go in terms of cooperation, and so on.
Yeah, but they do probably the same thing. They work with certain people who turn over weak systems, and then they do the tapping themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for all of them. It's the same approach. They're interested in getting all the data on everybody. And it's just crazy. I mean, because it just buries them in too much data, and that means they can't figure anything out. That's why you have Brussels, Paris, Orlando, Boston, 9/11, all of them.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. Before we go to that, you also said that they now analyze video streams and they do face recognition, and they can basically track you around the world.
That's the idea of the Treasure Map program. That first is
the Treasure Map program. That's a beautiful name for a program.
Well, it's mapping where everybody is on the net or in the world every minute of the day, so that your GPS off your cell phone, off your computer, whatever you're using electronically, says that you're at this point at this time, and then from there, if they have video on that, they can match up the video and say what face is in common, and then that's you.
Okay, great. What a beautiful technology development, and that's really interesting in terms of power. Now, they have a whole lot of data, okay? They have petabytes of data, and they're building in Utah huge centers. Can they do something useful with all that data?
Well, they could, but they don't know how. That's the saving grace, if you want to call it that. For democracy, they can't figure out anything. They can use it against people. That's very effective. If, for example, they don't like you and what you're doing, they can go into that data and find some dirt on you and use it against you. And they do that with other reporters. They did it with Jim Risen, the Associated Press, and other reporters. So they're threatening the reporters around the world.
But they use it if they have something against you or if they know something out of other ways. But out of that big data don't come automatically the list of the terrorists.
Right, that's exactly the problem. If you have to find the terrorists and you don't know who they are to start with, you got to go through this massive amount of data that isn't relevant to anything, and they can't get there in time to stop anything.
Okay. Now, you left NSA, and on friendly or unfriendly terms, but you've been talking about it. How have you been treated compared to your friend in Moscow?
Well, they haven't, because I attacked them directly. And I go directly to them. I want to go to court with them. That's the point. Because I want this all in a court of law so that it can be discussed on a constitutional basis. Because that point, they lose. And that's why they don't bother me.
And I think, don't we have a president now who's a lawyer and who we respect very much in Europe? What is your opinion about how Obama treated this thing?
He is fundamentally attacking all whistleblowers as much as he can. He has prosecuted more whistleblowers than the entire set of presidents before him, and he wants to silence them. And he's a constitutional lawyer. He knows that this is a direct violation of the Constitution, and he's doing nothing about it.
And is that pressure around him, or what is it?
Well, but you see, his oath of office, let's remember that, is to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution. And he's not doing any of that.
So tell me, why do you think that is?
Because all of the intelligence agencies want all this money to do all this big job, like collecting everything in the world. That takes an awful lot of money.
But why doesn't he stand up to them? I mean,
he's afraid of them.
Really?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the intelligence agencies are really having more control of the governments than the governments do of those agencies. Okay. And so now they're mixing the police with them. So now you've got the police and the intelligence agencies, which makes a secret police. And so now they're a part of that organization. And so now this is getting more powerful. It's like J. Edgar Hoover on super steroids.
You say you have about 50 people in Congress and a number of people who have a coalition who want to stop this. How is that coalition going?
Actually, I think it's reasonably well. I mean, we're starting to get some action. Hopefully this year we'll be able to make some movement towards starting to stop this. In 2013, Representatives Amos and Conyers in the House put a bill on the floor of the House to try to stop the NSA bulk surveillance. It almost made it. It lost by 12 votes out of 435, which is not too bad.
Now with the Trump administration, do you feel more positive towards them?
Actually, I hope he comes in and says, you're fired to all of them, because they're all incompetent. They're all doing things for the wrong reason, and people die as a result of that. I mean, when you can't succeed at stopping threats, people die. And that's what's been going on. That's what happened in Paris, not once but twice. That's what happened in Brussels. That's what happened in Orlando. That's what happened in Boston, etc.
All that money is basically thrown away and is not producing any result.
Exactly.
And Trump might not want to deal with that.
No, I think he of any of them would do that. I have more hope for him doing it, saying you're fired.
Than Obama.
Okay. Obama would never say that. He's doubled down on this whole process. Okay. Bush started it, Bush and Cheney, and Obama has doubled down on it.
You are here now at 1,000 CIOs listening to your story. Normally it would always be with left critical society people, but here you are in the center of the automation. How are you treated in America? Do they have the same reception for you?
Actually, I think I would say they do, especially when it gets. There's a movie coming out about me, by the way, and my experience in NSA. It's called A Good American. It's opening up it's playing now in Germany and Austria and Denmark, I think, and also it'll be opening here in the rest of Europe soon, if not already. It's in the UK and Scotland, and it'll be opening in the US.
So you're being accepted in Europe. What about in America?
Actually, the screenings that we've done of the movie in the US, it's been a really great reception. Okay. In fact, people are getting really angry over this, And in fact, when I leave here, I go to New York to have another screening with the Aspen Institute. And they were the ones that wanted to show it again to more people because they're so upset about it too.
Okay, so there's enough people in the United States being upset that you're protected and they don't bother you too much.
And the coalition we have of NGOs, of privacy and civil liberties advocates, has an outreach to about 10 million U.S. citizens. So there's a whole group of people, and hopefully we can get some momentum to stop this.
Now, but okay, the speaker after you, Gardner, says, look what one country can do. Now imagine what all the Chinese companies and the American companies and the Facebooks of this world, etc., and what kind of power they have, together with artificial intelligence to smartly search for all the data. Are they also something we should be worried about in terms of democracy?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they shouldn't be doing what they're doing either. There were laws against that. I mean, there were laws against sharing information about the individuals in the U.S., Electronic Privacy Act, Electronic Security Act, and in Europe, you have the data is really owned by the person, not by the third party holding it. Yep. So they have to get permission for that to release that.
So after America, after the American government, the companies are next.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. This was William Binney, an ex-former NSA official who basically told a story, and everybody really was fascinated by it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.